All right. Hello and good football to all. This is the Shall We Football podcast powered by Razzball Fantasy. I'm Ryan, my co-host AJ and Colt. Coming up, Chris Farley's Tommy Boy character, Tommy Callahan's, once said, "Hey, I'll tell you what, you can get a good look at a butcher's ass by sticking your head up there. But wouldn't you rather take his word for it?" I do believe he was misquoting something, but
He was.
delightful analogy. Yes.
He was.
Let's take a number and oil up that keister because it's time to discuss the bottom of the NFL power rankings. We're going 32 to 21, the bottom round cut, I believe. The pork show, the Boston butt of
you keep talking. You have to edit the video and I have to edit the audio so I can make it sound nice.
The video is going to look terrible if I do that. Plus, I will attempt the pronunciation game 2.0 words Evan can't say. We'll present the Mac Oracle Award for episode MVP, named for Mac Jones and his heavenly dad bod, New England quarterback, delightful human. Go follow us on Twitter at SWF_podcast. Subscribe, watch us on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Go to razzball.com to not suck at fantasy sports. No s'mores. All right, rules of engagement, boys. You know them. Human decency and puns not tolerated. Name calling is required. Do not wait until people are done talking to opine. No rules, just right. Brokeback Snakehouse. You ready to football?
I am ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I am.
All right, I believe I'm also ready. Okay, we are going to go 32 to 21 in this here delightful program. And I believe we talked before the show. Our 32 and 31 is a consensus, boys.
Yeah, boys.
32 and 31 for me is Cardinals and Texans.
Yep. AJ, Cardinals and Texans.
That's a consensus, boys.
Yep. Me, Cardinals and Texans. Do we want to reiterate why or just leave it at they're going to stink?
I mean, we should say why.
Sure. Do we want to start with the Cardinals? I mean, the Cardinals are going to be without Kyler Murray for a portion, if not all, of the season. They may win some games when he comes back, but outside of Budda Baker, that entire roster, Rondale Moore, maybe, that entire roster is not good. Right? Like,
it's bad. You said Budda Baker, so that's it.
I did.
That's it. I mean, they've got pieces on the offensive line. They just drafted Paris Johnson. They have DJ Humphries, but wasn't enough for them to establish the run consistently last year. I don't think adding Paris Johnson, let's say they do establish the run every now and then, it's not enough to get you out of the basement with the rest of the team, I don't think.
With a new coach, yeah.
And a new coach, who, by the way, I think has maybe shot himself in the foot a little bit by taking this job.
Yeah, for sure. Colt McCoy at the helm, I believe the first at least 6 weeks.
Well, Texas is back.
Yeah, big time Texas is back.
Big time Texas is back.
Yeah, Colt McCoy out there gunslinging. Let's go Longhorns.
Check out this segue. Yeah, but then the Texans are back.
Yeah, Texans are also back in the basement.
You are the worst tonight. You were the worst tonight. I had a shitty lead in that I was going to pretend was good, and you trounced on it. Yeah. Whatever, dog. Listen, I mean, to be honest, I'm pretty uninspired right now by ranking these teams. This is just a thing that we all have to get through together.
Yeah,
I agree.
The three of us just have to power through this, and I hope the people listening can hold our metaphorical hands and just power through this because we have
solidarity.
Yeah,
we need your shoulders on which to cry. The Texans, they had the number 1 overall pick, and then they didn't last year because they went and won a game. But room for optimism here in Houston, I believe, with C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, John Mechie probably coming back. Like, there's some hope in that franchise. They're just still a long way away. Right.
So, yeah, go ahead, Colt. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, what we think could be a really good coach, too. D'Amico Ryans.
Yes.
Really well-rounded defensive mind as well, and players coach.
Texans legend.
That, too. I think that bodes well for the organization. I think it was a great hire. Having C.J. Stroud and some pieces in place there, too. I think setting the tone. They're still a couple years away, I think, but
It's a
it's
very
something to look
different
forward to.
tone than Arizona.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, completely. And here's the thing. I think the Texans roster is right now, knowing what we do know about the players that have played NFL football and knowing what we don't know about the players that haven't yet played NFL football, no matter how good they may be, the state of the Texans roster is indicative of the 31st best team in the NFL for sure. I would be shocked if they end up with the second overall pick. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think someone else is going to be. I think there will be two teams that will finish worse than the Texans.
It'll be interesting.
Because here's the thing is, like, if that's not the case, if the Texans are this bad, I mean, that is the first step towards this most recent draft being a massive bust. Like, I know it's not, we're not supposed to have huge expectations so quickly, but I think there's something to be said that, if their first round quarterback, their number 2 overall pick quarterback in his first season has them as the 31st best team in the NFL, to me, that's problematic. Even though he's a rookie, even though he doesn't have too much, there would have to be a ton of circumstances around it where the rest of the team just sucks and CJ Stroud is clearly being like dragged down by the rest of that roster. But if that's not the case, it's tough. It is. It's certainly a possibility. But all those things, it's tough to reconcile those things because it's like either they can finish 31st, but CJ Stroud needs to be very clearly dragged down by how shitty that roster is, or else we have a problem.
They need to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. He needs to be better than, let's say, 9 or 10 other starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
From Jump Street.
From jump. Yeah,
exactly.
He has to be better than your Baker Mayfield in Tampa. He has to be better than Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. He has to be better.
And not on game one, right?
No,
not on game one.
No.
By the end of the season.
In totality, at the end of the season, he has to be better than Colt McCoy in Arizona. Like, he just has to be there. But from that standpoint, I love where the Texans are in comparison to the Cardinals, who are on the downswing, and they're looking dead into the pits of despair instead of climbing their way out of them.
So I wouldn't go as far as to say I love where the Texans are, because they are at present the second worst team in football. I know what you mean. Yeah, in comparison to the Cardinals, I think I could pull together between the three of us another 19 dudes.
Yeah.
And we could probably give them a run for their money. Unless Texas is back, and then Colt McCoy would destroy us.
Well, obviously Texas is back. Quinn Ewers would lead those Longhorns over the Texans. It would be interesting to do this again in, let's say, week 10 to 12 and see where the Texans fall in this hierarchy at that point in the season.
I don't have a secretary. If you guys do, can you tell them to jot that down so we can revisit this later? Yeah.
Take a note. Yeah.
Seems all right. Like none of us have one.
Let's move to 29. Coulter, who do you have at 29?
Or we could do 30 first.
30. Yeah, 30.
We could do 30, and then if that's all right with you, 30 and then 29.
Counting's really hard when you go backwards.
It is. It is.
Coulter?
At 30, I have Carolina.
Okay.
Damn, son.
That's harsh.
That is harsh.
I know. I'm thinking rookie quarterback. Learning curve, adjustment. I don't know, man. I know it's harsh.
Your bias for Anthony Richardson is showing right now. We can get to that later.
Oh, we will in this episode, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's coming soon. Yep, I'm not that biased.
AJ, do you have your 30th?
I do. It is. I think we're all on the same page in terms of throwing an NFC South team here. Ryan, you might not, but we just talked about.
We talked about it beforehand, but yeah.
We did. We talked about the Panthers just now. Colt. That was Colt's selection. I've got the Buccaneers here, and my initial thought was like the Buccaneers are better than the Panthers and the Falcons. Except they were when they had, albeit an aging but the greatest quarterback of all time, who was second in the league in passing in yards per game, and they were still they still barely made the playoffs.
They were bad at the football.
They were terrible. So now you take away Tom Brady. I think this team is going to collapse. Like I think this makes me feel a little gross inside because I have no inside knowledge into what's going on in that building. But I think this locker room is going to implode.
Good chance.
I think it's not that I think there's a bunch of knuckleheads there. I don't think it's the case. What there is though is a vacuum. Yeah, there's a like you've just pulled a huge you've just created a huge void in that building. And then also, like, despite having Vita Vea and a lot of talented players on the defense,
they're thin.
They still gave up like almost 350 points last year, which, by the way, was not. I mean, the amount of points they gave up, not too dissimilar from the rest of the division. So the Buccaneers gave up 358. The Saints gave up less. They gave up 345. The Panthers gave up 374, like 20-point difference. Even the Falcons only gave up like 30 more points on the season. They actually had the worst point differential in the division, which is wild.
Yeah.
Also, they scored the least amount of points in the division. So that's right. I'm saying the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all scored more points last year than the Buccaneers. And now I'm supposed to believe that Baker Mayfield is going to propel this offense to a place
Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask. Well, that's a different discussion. Baker Mayfield, is he going to propel them to the next level? No. Kyle Trask? Maybe. Probably not.
PFF has the Buccaneers at 21. Like, in what world?
It's really aggressive.
In what world?
Not that high, but like if you look at personnel top to bottom,
would dictate maybe 25. I could get behind that, but not 21.
I can see where they're going. No, I don't think I can get behind 21. And this is one that could really shoot me in the ass. But if you're comparing last year to this year and you're removing things, and like this was still against the worst division in football. There's a bunch of easy wins that they left on the table.
Yep.
Or
I have the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, this is what we talked about a little bit.
I have the Rams at 30. We just had to keep it moving. I have the Rams below the Bucks. The Bucks are my number 29. I have the Rams at 30 because that roster is so young. They're going to have like 40 rookies on their opening day roster.
It's been gutted.
You've got Aaron Donald, sure. You have Matthew Stafford, sure. You have Cooper Kupp, sure. And you have 40 fucking rookies.
Yep.
That team could be desperately bad.
Yeah. It blows my mind that Ben Skowronek is playing NFL football and starting at wide receiver. He was a transfer from Northwestern to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He was part of what most Notre Dame fans consider the worst wide receiver core that Notre Dame has had in like a decade. I mean, the guy is talented and he's tall. Don't get me wrong. It is wild to see him up there with Cooper Kupp, and Van Jefferson's going to get his too. But yeah, you're right. This team is gutted.
That's why I have them. That's why I have them between the Bucks and the Texans.
It's fair.
Their quarterback situation is pretty obviously better than the Bucks, but outside of that, the Bucks, I believe, still have the better roster overall than the Rams, and they're 40 rookies.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah,
yikes.
All right, 29. You guys know mine is the Bucks. But AJ, do you have it 29?
29, I have the Colts. Now, everything I said for CJ Stroud, if the Colts suck, it's a little more okay because of Anthony Richardson's talents and what we assume is going to be his transitional period to the NFL. Because like Ryan has harped on for at this point, 9 months, a year maybe. Anthony Richardson has not started a ton of games. So what he should be doing in college, possibly right now, he's going to be doing in the pros. And if he struggles, to me, it's a little bit different. So if the Colts fall here, which again, this is like the Buccaneers, their personnel is better than the Rams, and I have the Rams higher. It's better than the Raiders. I have the Raiders higher. It's probably better than the Bears, and I have the Bears higher. But their trigger man is a rookie, an unpolished rookie who doesn't have a ton of starting experience. If the Colts are here by the end of the season, it's fine. If the Texans are, that's a little more concerning. Just I don't want to say in a vacuum, but the Texans would be more concerning for me because CJ Stroud's supposed to be a little bit more ready to go. And CJ Stroud, he's got a left tackle to protect him. He has Laramie Tunsil is top shelf, and he's got that piece. Also, the Colts, Anthony Richardson has a line in front of him minus that left tackle, but there are dudes there to protect. So that being said, if with protection, if Stroud doesn't succeed early, there's concern. If Richardson doesn't, whatever, that's fine. He's got time.
Coulter, do you have the Colts at 28?
29? I have the Rams.
29, excuse me.
You got the Rams.
I put the Rams over the Panthers because of Stafford and Kupp and their connection, and under the premise they will still stay healthy.
So your thoughts on his placement with the Colts and Anthony Richardson?
On my placement?
On AJ's placement.
On AJ's. Oh, my thoughts. I think it's realistic. Yeah. And I think Anthony Richardson will get a little bit more grace than most. He has far less experience, and the expectation couldn't be any higher with the 5th overall pick.
I think AJ, you're partially correct that if the Colts are still here at the end of the year, it's okay. Yeah. I do think though that Anthony Richardson, from when he begins playing, if not in week 1, let's say week 3 or 4, he needs to show market improvement by the end of the year, even if in totality the team still stinks. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, yeah. The guy needs to show improvement, but his improvement needs to be a little less linear. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like his can be all over the place.
Sure.
That to me, that's a little more acceptable from an Anthony Richardson. From a CJ Stroud, I would like to see a little bit more of a consistent growth. Whereas if A-Rich has a game where he just, he fumbles thrice and throws a pick, whoop-de-doo.
You're going to burn the popcorn with Anthony Richardson every now and then.
Yeah.
Every now and again.
You will burn the popcorn.
Good analogy.
You're going to have some big flashes. You're going to have some really nice bags of popcorn, and you're going to burn the popcorn every now and then. All right, everybody's got their 29. Colt had the Rams. AJ with Colts. I had the Bucks at 28. Coulter.
This is where I have the Bucks.
Okay.
Better personnel than the Rams, for one.
Sure.
And some of the other things we already touched on. I mean, I think Baker's pretty awful. And I think Trask also pretty awful. But both sides of the ball.
Wait a sec. We do not have enough yet to make that judgment.
You're right. You're right. That might have been a little harsh.
Kyle Trask has the potential to be
Not
really
all. Or to be not awful.
or to be really,
awful.
really
really
extraordinarily bad.
Yeah.
Excited for both.
Very excited for both.
Receiving core for the Bucks. They got yeah, I'm fine with that. My 28 is the Colts, and it is the Anthony Richardson factor. I just with Jonathan Taylor, you don't know how healthy he's going to be. They just put him on the PUP list today.
Yeah.
They can take him off whenever they feel like it, so it's not that big a deal at this point. But I'll need to see if he's actually healthy. And even if he is, how good is that offensive line going to be? Is it going to be the Colts offensive line that they actually paid a couple of years ago, or the post-paid Colts offensive line? If Anthony Richardson is given a dog shit offensive line, last year's offensive line, it's going to be really bad, and they could go down from here. I don't love their receiving core. I don't love their defense. I think the Colts have the potential to be horrific.
I agree.
Horrific.
Yeah.
AJ, do you have your 28?
I do. I want to say that the Colts have the potential to have games that are the type of horrific that you remember for a while. Do you know what I mean? Like they have the potential to have games. Yeah. Like Daniel Jones tripping on turf type bad in a different way, but something that memorable on like a breakaway run with no one in front of you. I think the Colts have the potential to have games and plays because Anthony Richardson is going to be trying to do so many wild and crazy things because he probably has to.
He could be Jameis Winston.
I think he could.
Oh, baby.
Jameis Winston is just kind of like it's sad at this point. Jameis Winston stuff is sad to me. Anthony Richardson stuff. I think it could be like it'll still feel okay to laugh at. It won't feel like played, you know?
Right.
It'll give you that nice warm feeling you love. So
yeah, I like that.
I've got the Rams here, which we've already gone over at length. I don't think we need to anymore.
Okay. Coulter, you're number 27, please.
This is where I have Indy.
Okay.
And we've kind of hit it home pretty hard.
We have touched on Indianapolis pretty thoroughly. I have the Bears at 27.
My man.
Sure.
I do as well.
27. Yeah.
Nice.
I just don't know. I just don't know. Justin Fields is going to be a fantasy football darling this year. He's probably going to run for 1,000 yards again. He's probably going to pass for 3,500 to 4,000. He's going to have monster fantasy numbers.
Did you say 4,000?
Maybe 3,500. I don't know, man. The receiving core is better.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is better. Their defense was the worst defense in football last year.
And they had to spend money this year for the cap.
They had to.
So they shored up some players on defense.
Justin Fields has won like 6 regular season NFL games in 2 years. He's been bad. His win-loss record is horrific.
He bins bad. Yeah, he bins bad.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
AJ, please.
This hinges on Fields entirely because guess what? Very quietly, they've got some guys. Okay, and you won't have heard of how well these guys played because of where they are and how bad the rest of the team is around them. But if you look at the Bears, Eddie Jackson, the safety, he can ball. They brought in big money Tremaine Edmonds to play middle linebacker for him.
They did.
TJ Edwards, they brought him in. These guys were 2 of PFF's top 10 linebackers last year. DeMarcus Walker, was a top 25 edge rusher. I'm sorry, a D lineman last year. He can move around a little bit. He was a top 25 D lineman for them, and so was Andrew Billings, another one. The rest of the team is fucking bad, but they're young. Jaquan Brisker in the defensive secondary, young guy. Kyler Gordon, young guy, first round draft pick. And also,
I think Brisker a lot coming out.
We did like Brisker. I like Gordon a lot. The main change with this team is that the offensive line has some guys. Tevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State, if Oklahoma State's owned, if healthy, is an excellent guard. So is Nate Davis, formerly paving the way for Derrick Henry. And then on the outside, they've just drafted Darnell Wright. They've got Braxton Jones. If you look on PFF, most of these guys have really good PFF scores. And Colt, you know all about what's been going on with the skill positions.
Yep.
There is momentum forward. But like Ryan said, despite what I said about that defense, statistically, they were so fucking bad. It's really hard to get around that at all. So bad were they on defense. And then Justin Fields, do we have the next step or not? I hate to say this about anybody, but I'm not there. Colt, are you?
I am. With adding DJ Moore, I am.
Okay.
Without, no.
All right, Ryan, you're the one that ranked him here with me. Are you there with Justin Fields?
No. I will not be there until I start seeing wins. I don't care. I don't give two dog shits about numbers. I want wins, and that is what I haven't seen.
Trey Wingo once said, and he's quoting like 8 billion other people, but wins are not a quarterback stat.
Yeah, I know that, but
and that defense was fucking,
I know,
bad.
5-30 something is not great.
It isn't. But if you Ryan, my point here is there's a stretch in the middle of the season where Justin Fields and that offense scored, and they lost all these games.
They did.
They lost all these games. Here are the scores. They scored 29 against Dallas, 32 against Miami, 30 against Detroit, 24 against Atlanta, 19 against Green Bay, 20 against Philly. The rest of these were kind of blowouts, but they 22 against Minnesota, and those are varying defenses by a pretty wide margin. Also 33 on New England, who had a top 7-ish defense, top 5 by some metrics. So that's where I look at this and I'm like, oh, little head tilt / question mark.
That defense has to be better.
Defense
has to be better.
That's not on Fields, and that's what gives me a little bit of that hope for Fields. But like you said, it is really hard to get away from wins not being a quarterback stat.
I got to see
really
wins,
hard.
Man.
I know, I do too. One day we'll have a metric
West.
for all this shit.
They've got the AFC West on their schedule this year. Like, that's no fun.
That's not great.
That's no fun whatsoever.
Well, that's not great for anyone. That's not great for anyone.
They've got the Browns, who could be good. They got the Lions twice. Like,
Ryan, for God's sake, get my face off of this thing. You're highlighting is driving me nuts. I hate it.
Sorry. All right. Let's move on now. 26, Coulter.
26 is where I put the Raiders.
Oh, me too.
Nice.
Interesting.
Me too. Why did you put the Raiders at 26?
I sandwiched them right in between another pretty run-heavy team from what we saw last year. Jimmy G, I'm a little trepidatious on.
Ooh.
Not bad. We still got Devontae Adams, who's a stud. I think it's a Josh McDaniels issue too. I'm not sold on him as a head coach and his coaching style and locker room and tone and all of these things. It's just a weird vibe in Las Vegas. Yeah, that's kind of where I land. It's Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and I don't fully trust Jimmy G. I think he's just a game manager. I don't see a lot of upside for this team. 26 felt appropriate.
I like 26 as well, and I like 26 because the Raiders don't love to tackle, and I do believe we play tackle football in the NFL. I
You're right.
also don't know if Garoppolo is a guy that can go out and get it.
No.
If I was a fantasy football owner of Devontae Adams, I would almost prefer Aiden O'Connell to be the quarterback because he will do nothing but chuck it down the field to Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
We're going to get a lot of checkdowns from Jimmy G to
Yeah.
Devontae. He'll have a lot of receptions.
Yep.
We don't know if Josh Jacobs is going to show up.
That's a good point.
We don't know if Josh Jacobs is going to be there.
Could be bad.
Could be not good at all. And I'm very much not sold on Josh McDaniel as a head coach. AJ, who is your 27th ranked team? 26th ranked team, excuse me.
After fiddling with this a bunch, it's also the Raiders. I had them as high as 23
consensus
and as low as 26. And I am still uncertain of this here because if I'm looking at these 4 teams that I'm playing with between 23 and 26, Jimmy G is the most proven quarterback of the 4. Wild. Weird. A weird thing to say out loud.
Went to a Super Bowl.
Went to a Super Bowl, he did. He did go there, and he went there and played in it, which makes him the best of these 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's about I think that's the highest. That is the highest honor that I can bestow upon Lord Jim.
How do you feel about Josh McDaniel?
The same. I am
all the way out.
What?
Coaching job.
No. If he fucks this up, he's done. If he's back to hopefully he can find himself another offensive coordinator job.
He's very good at that.
How many of these chances is he going to get before Eric Bieniemy does?
Yeah.
You know?
That's the truth. Yeah.
Before Byron Leftwich does?
Sidebar. Did we know how good Eric Bieniemy was when he was at Colorado as a running back?
I did not.
Do we know how good he would be as a coach?
No. At Colorado, he finished 3rd in the Heisman vote.
Really?
He ran for like 9,000 yards in his career.
Before I really paid attention.
It was before you were born.
The enemy? No.
Yeah. His freshman year was 87.
Did he stay all 4 years? Was he there in 91?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But
irrelevant.
He started at Colorado before you were born. It was before I could remember anything. But I had a buddy, I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and he read through Eric Bieniemy's college stats at Colorado, and they were fucking. He averaged like 5.7 yards a carry, had 17 touchdowns and 1,600 yards. He was really good.
Wow.
All right. Side note over. 25. Coulter, who you got?
This is where I've got Atlanta, the Falcons.
Okay. Why there?
Bijan Robinson, a strong ass offensive line, a run first minded coach. I think the scheme is going to pick up even more this year. Drake London is an alpha receiver. He shined low key really good last year. I just wrote some stuff up on him, and last week's. Well, it actually dropped this Monday on my latest featured Razzball article. Drake London had a 29% target share last year. Now, granted, there wasn't a whole lot else, but guess what? There's not a whole lot else this year either.
Yeah.
Mac Hollins is the team's wide receiver too. Kyle Pitts coming off a MCL surgery. I think Atlanta's going to compete in that division a lot more than people think they will. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult looking at the Saints, Bucks, Panthers. I don't know. This felt appropriate for Atlanta. I give them the nod over the Raiders.
All right, AJ.
Yeah. It's got to be Atlanta here.
All right.
It's got to be Atlanta. I was between them and the Panthers. I know you've already had the Panthers, but I between them and Carolina, I've had a tough time kind of parsing that. The Panthers defense, I'm sorry, the Cowboys defense is fucking
Falcons?
terrible. The Falcons defense is fucking awful.
Yeah.
They did just bring in Jesse Bates, who, regardless of his PFF score,
He's really good.
Is a really good player. What I look at is what the Falcons managed to do last year, despite having a worse team than they'll have this year. They're better this year in terms of personnel along the offensive line, and they have, at least in terms of pure talent, like a top, I can't throw him too high yet, but I'll say a top 10 running back by God-given ability. Probably top 5. I think that's even safe. And if you're just talking about God-given ability, Bijan Robinson. Big thing they did, though, is they brought in Calais Campbell. A longtime player, still very effective, a top 20 interior defensive lineman in the game still, after probably
all time.
I mean, he's been here 15 years, roughly. I think he's probably a little under 15 years, but he's been here over a decade, if I remember correctly. He's still huge. He's still 6'8", and he's still effective, and he's a leader. He's been in the Ravens winning culture, in the John Harbaugh culture for a long time now.
Yep.
And I think he's going to help the defense just with his presence alone. But you cannot get around the fact that they've got nothing off the edge. Their cornerbacks, while they're getting better, AJ Terrell had an off season last year. Jeff Okudah looks like he's going to be one of their starting cornerbacks. That's not great. Detroit didn't want him. And now, I don't know what it seems like more of a desperation start than anything else. No offense, Jeff. But the offensive line, like Colt said, it's awesome. Yeah. The tackles are maybe the best tandem in the game. They have PFF's number 1 guard in Chris Lindstrom. And then they've got Pitts in London and Robinson and all that stuff. I mean, we're splitting hairs. This is the 25th team as far as I'm concerned and as far as Colt's concerned. So I don't know what it really fucking matters at this point. Yeah. I have the team I've also discussed next to them next. So what is one spot? But yeah, I'm putting them below the next team that I have because of the quarterback.
Yep. This is Calais Campbell's 16th season.
Wow. 15. I was right there. How about me, huh?
Good for him. I have the Panthers at 25.
Okay.
I kind of like their defense a little more than Colt does.
Yeah, see, that's Brian something Burns I didn't take into as much consideration.
Yeah, J.C. Horn, if he's healthy, and that defense, Jeremy Chin, that defense could be really good.
Pretty nasty.
Bryce Young is also a goddamned wizard, so you can't really discount that. We don't know how well that's going to work in the NFL. But it worked in the SEC. It worked at Alabama, which is about as close to the NFL as you can get. All of those dudes he was being a wizard against are playing against him now on Sundays. So I'm not going to bet against him. Probably going to be a rocky start. I think he figures it out, and I think they're probably going to win 5 to 7 games, which is fine for the 25th best team in football. All right, 24. 24. I've got the Titans at 24.
Okay.
Derrick Henry is still there. He's still alive. He's still a human.
DeAndre Hopkins too.
DeAndre Hopkins just signed. He is not as big.
Fuck, are you kidding me? I had no idea. I had no idea that happened.
Really?
I guess we're bringing that up. What I do know is that Justin Herbert just signed for $1 bazillion fucking dollars.
Oh,
and Trayvon Diggs just signed a massive contract. Yeah. As of the recording of this, it's now
Trayvon Diggs is $97 million, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, DeAndre Hopkins signed with Titans a couple days ago.
Makes me feel better about where I have them. So good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Their defense is still pretty good with Kevin Byard and those guys. They're okay. I still think they're not very good at football. Ryan Tannehill still at quarterback. Big time questions at offensive line. And Mike Vrabel's going to get them to grind it out and gut it out. Way underrated coach because that roster is just not awesome.
It's diapers at this point.
Yep. Coulter, who you got at 24?
24, I've got the Bears. I'm obviously a bit more of a believer in Fields and the DJ Moore acquisition than you guys are. Not by a ton, 3 spots. Not a ton.
AJ at 24.
At 24, that's where I have the Panthers.
Okay.
Yeah.
What it came down to was between them and the Falcons, because this is by far the most difficult division to fuck around with. Is
in this exercise, yes.
In this it's everything in the South. Well, not necessarily. I've come to a little more consensus in the AFC South, but the NFC South is really difficult to parse through. The NFC North is pretty tough too, but like minus the Saints, who I think have kind of established themselves with Derek Carr as the
clear front runners on leaders on top of the pile of dew.
There you go. I was looking for a shit analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the least foul smelling dookie is the Saints, but the other three, I mean, they're really hard to separate, and the Panthers and the Falcons are the hardest. Both have the same record last year. And I know the Panthers have clearly gotten better at the most important position, at least as far as I'm concerned. I'm like Ryan. I'm an absolute believer in this small wizard man that came from Alabama. But the Falcons, like, it's so hard to be like, of all the things that they could be good at, running the ball makes it so difficult to like
possession.
To cast them aside.
Yeah.
I want to be like, they suck, but I'm like, God damn, they can run the ball, can't they?
Yep. They can run it.
And stupidly, they went and got the best running back in the draft in the past like 4 drafts or so.
They're gonna run it some more.
They're gonna run. And that makes me confused.
And
angry a little.
Yeah.
And a little wet.
All right. That brings us to 23. Coulter at 23 you have.
This is where I have the Red Hogs, gentlemen.
Our beloved Red Hogs.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Ryan?
They're not higher?
I'm at peace with that.
Yeah.
Coulter, why Red Hogs at 23?
I think Sam Howell's a gunslinger. And I think Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel is a damn good receiving room.
I love that they're all like the same.
I agree with that.
Give or take.
No, they're all the same player.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite part is that they're all like a very similar type.
I know.
Like body.
I like Dotson.
I love Jahan Dotson.
I love
absolutely,
Dotson
boys.
just as much as McLaurin. I mean, did you know that Sam Howell broke the air yardage record for the franchise in the one and only game that he started last year? He broke just the air yard
of ball traveling through the air.
Yes, in the one game he started last year, he
discounting yards after catch, right?
Yeah, just air yards alone.
Yeah.
Just a bomb shot. He broke the franchise
bless.
record. I mean, you love to see it.
He does love hold my dick balls.
Yep.
He does love hold my dick, balls.
Yes. Just slinging
Well,
it.
no, it wouldn't be a comma. It would be hold my dick. Space balls.
Space
right?
balls. Yeah.
Space balls. It would be hold my dick, space balls.
Right.
Okay. All right, I'm done with the wordplay.
I think their defensive line's really good too.
The defensive line is indisputably good.
Really good. Secondary, maybe not so good, but
they've just addressed it. First round pick Emmanuel Forbes.
Yep, they could be sneaky. Okay,
they've got a running back room that has people in it.
That has humans.
They've got people in there. A really good people, my understanding. One of Ryan's favorite footballsmen, Brian Robinson.
Footballsman. the gunshot wound survivor, Brian Robinson.
Mhm.
This is a team that it's another one that like the Texans, I'd like to see where they're at later in the year. I think they could. Their division's so hard, but I think they're going to be pretty good. AJ, who do you have at 23?
I have the Packers here.
Okay.
I look at them last year, and I'm like, do they get better? Am I ready to say that they get better with Jordan Love than Andrew Podgers?
Andrew Lodgers.
Can we permanently attach to Aaron Rodgers Andrew Podgers?
I like that.
Can we permanently attach that to him?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
New York Jets gunslinger Andrew Podgers.
Andrew Podgers.
Throws for 4 million yards today. Are they really better? Are they really better going from Andrew Podgers to Jordan Love?
No.
Yeah,
the answer is obviously no.
So they've got to they have to be reduced from an 8-9 team, right? They have to come back a little bit.
Last year's 8-9 team was a little bit different though, because Rodgers played with a broken thumb. I think Christian Watson is going to be better this year than he was last year because it's his second year. His first half of last season, he did not understand, the main concept of his job is catching the football. They really started playing decent ball by the end of the year. They're going to take a big step back from that at the end of the year, but the totality of the season, they may still finish 8-9.
They may. The biggest game in which they were so I mean they played well in a way, right? The close game against the Eagles was pretty important.
Yeah.
For their growth. Now, was that the game? I'm breaking my own rule here. Was that the game that no, Jalen Hurts played in that game. So yeah, the game against the Packers that they lost. I'm sorry, the game against the Eagles that they lost. They then went on to win 4 in a row, and then losing to Detroit, a good Detroit team, in the last week of the season. But they beat the Bears, they beat the Rams, they beat the Dolphins, and they beat the Vikings. They spanked the Vikings, I should say.
Yes, they did. And we're very close to sneaking, like backdooring their way into the playoffs.
This one, this is the pick of all of these that I have, honestly, and this is saying a lot, the least confidence in is the Packers here. I just don't know standalone, like, if the rest of this team is good, because they should be better right now. They should have been better than they were last year just based on personnel alone. If you look at how many first-round draft picks are on that defense.
That's correct.
And how many they added last year. I know they're rookies, but with Walker and Wyatt on the front seven, now they've added Van Ness as well, which is great. Add some more help, more first-round picks in the front seven. Ryan has harped on this. Van Ness, not a full-time player at Iowa, despite being wildly talented, still a situational player there, which, hey, that might be what they're planning for him in Green Bay. This team should have been more than the sum of its parts ended up being. And that's sort of why I had them here. But your perspective about, God, I wish we were more hostile than this, but like your perspective about with taking into account Rodgers' struggles and the context of that, plus them improving late in the season. Yeah, I have the least amount of confidence in the Packers at 23 here.
The bottom could fall out like big time.
It's just, I mean, this is mostly,
or they could be really good.
Well, it's mostly Jordan Love dependent anyway.
Yeah, it is. I have the Falcons at 23.
Nice.
That defense is the only question mark, really. I think the offense could be
So
pretty good.
are you telling me that you are a Desmond Ritter believer?
No. I'm a believer in Cordero Patterson and Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think Arthur Smith is really fucking smart. And he'll be able to get those guys open, and Desmond Ritter can throw to open dudes. He can make Cincinnati throws when he needs to. He's not going to make NFL throws on a regular basis. It's defense dependent, but I think that running game they're going to be pretty good. I think they have enough talent on offense. They're going to be pretty good.
I do too, and they'll control the time of possession.
Yeah. All right, 22, Coulter.
22. This is where I have the Packers.
Aha.
This
I
is
feel less weird about it now.
Yeah.
I'm not far behind.
Yeah, the receiving core is not great. I mean, Christian Watson flashed a lot his rookie year. Jaden Reed, I like a lot as a prospect coming out of an awful offense in Michigan State. I think he's got a lot of upside. Romeo Dubs, we saw a couple of glimpses here and there. The running game, I think the offense is going to run through Aaron Jones to take a little bit of the pressure off Jordan Love. I mean, there's still some players on the defensive side of the ball. Clay Walker, Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, obviously. I think there's bright spots on this team. This felt like an appropriate place for them. I was kind of glad to see AJ drop the Green Bay Packer rank first, but I think we're all kind of relatively in the same area.
These guys are tough because, I mean, what do you guys think about? I mean, is there going to be a culture difference with Andrew Podgers headed to the Big Apple? Do you think that
the Big Pomegranate,
the Big Pongong, headed to the Green Apple there in New York?
I think there has to be, right?
Yeah. Does the culture write itself, or is it like, okay, this culture sucks because they could not make Aaron Rodgers fit to it, and he's just not a coach that can command that type of respect? Or was no one going to get that except Bill Belichick? Maybe.
I don't know. I think it's just going to be different. I think instead of running through Aaron Rodgers, it's got Jair Alexander and Aaron Jones and the veterans on that team. Jordan Love, he's been there for too long and taken a back seat for so long. I think it's going to be hard for him to take a leadership role in the first year as the starter. That may come down the road, but it's not. I don't think that's his place right now.
That's a super good point. It's going into something more specific about the culture. That is a really good point. This guy has been. I mean, it would be one thing if it was like this team was very good and it was Alex Smith in front of him, and then Jordan Love just happened to come in now for whatever reason.
And he's the Patrick Mahomes as the final piece. And no, that's not been the case. He's sitting behind the Hall of Famer as a wallflower, basically.
Exactly. And of all the Hall of Famers, I would say there are very few NFL quarterbacks, living or dead, who are as notably abrasive as Andrew Podgers.
Persnickety as Andrew Podgers.
Like a guy to sit behind to really, really hammer home that no, you are not the leader of this team. And while I am breathing in this building, you are not the leader in this team. That has to be one of the biggest transitions that a new quarterback can have. Probably even bigger than going from college to pro is stepping out of Aaron Rodgers' shadow, who, by all accounts, I mean, I don't know their relationship, but he was not thrilled to see him drafted there, and I can't imagine that went away.
And you haven't heard dick all from Jordan Love.
No, because he's probably been mentally and emotionally stifled by Aaron Podgers.
Andrew Podgers.
His
for
brother.
3 years. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting transitional period. Are we still on 2023 or are we switching to 22 now?
We are on 22. Your selection, Ryan.
All right, my 22 is our beloved Red Hogs.
Love it.
I also I also think Sam Howell is going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he's going to be fine. And I do love their defensive line, and I do love their skill position players, and their offensive line's okay. I think they're going to be really fun, man. I don't think they're going to lose that division. They might.
Well,
They're
I was gonna say,
according to my power rankings.
According to your power rankings, yeah,
they're
they
the
would be
last in
losing
that
it.
division. But I don't know, man. I think they can beat the Giants in that division.
I do too, and that'll become apparent because the Giants are my 22nd team.
Nice.
This team was fraudulent from Jump Street.
Yeah.
My trepidation here, thank you, Colt, is that they beat the Vikings in the playoffs not because they were a better team, but because they played better. And that's what I'm saying. It's a roundabout way of saying that they have a coach and a coaching staff that can lift the team up, which is, there are plenty of coaching staffs that depress their team, like Michael McCarthy and his ilk. But there are also examples of coaches and coaching staffs uplifting a roster that is not as good or young, because the Giants roster is young.
Yeah.
I am not a Daniel Jones believer at all.
They gave him so much money.
Right.
I think they are going to regret that.
It's going to be great.
They're going to regret it in an Albert Hainsworth type of way.
It's going to be so fun to watch.
But less problematic.
Correct.
Outwardly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that at 22. I really like that at 22.
Full disclosure, like, I've been wrestling. Denver has been one of the toughest motherfuckers to place in all of this. I have no idea what to do with Sean Payton, and I was never the biggest Sean Payton advocate, even when he was in New Orleans, because I thought they should have done more than they ended up doing over his time there. But they were really tough, and every team I look at here, I'm like, is Denver really better? Is Denver really better? And for the Giants, I'm not sure. According to last year, no. The Giants were in the playoffs. And also, the Broncos were not even close. They were eliminated very early. The Giants made it and won a fucking playoff game. So this makes me almost as uncomfortable as the Packers pick, because that coaching staff is the truth.
Yep, I agree. All right, was that your number 21?
Denver.
That was my 22. Was 22. The Giants? Now we're on 21. Which, Colt, it sounds like you went with Denver for 21.
No, I didn't. I went with the New Orleans Saints.
Why did you just say Denver then?
Confirming your selection.
That wasn't my selection. Mine was the Giants.
Okay. So
you remember all the talk about Daniel Jones?
We got very distracted about Denver.
We did. That's who I ended up. I was difficult to place them because I ended up looking at these past like three teams, 22 or 21, 22, 23, 24, and looking like, are the Broncos better than this team? And flipping back and forth with them. But yeah, it's the Giants. So you have at 21, Colt who?
Coulter?
He mute himself?
Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. I muted myself. Yeah. I have the New Orleans Saints at 21.
Weird.
As my lovely wife calls them, the Baton Rouge Bad Boys.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm a huge Chris Olave believer here. I mean, he had a tremendous rookie season. I think Derek Carr is a solid signing for them. You know, we know Derek Carr is he's just fine. Just mediocre.
He's fine.
Decent offensive line. Pretty good defense. Not as elite as it has been in years past, but still good. I mean, the Saints always just find a way to stay relevant and stay competitive. And in that division, they're the strongest team in my mind. So I'll take them at 21.
All right. AJ at 21.
21, I have the Titans.
Okay. Why so high?
For the same reason that you have the Falcons so high.
Okay.
The offensive line isn't quite as good as the Falcons, but they just added a huge piece as far as I'm concerned. I think old Pete Skoronski is going to be a Pro Bowl player sooner than later.
Sure.
I think that is as safe as it gets as far as I'm concerned with the first round that we just experienced. And they're going to run the ball. And as of right now, Derrick Henry is still better than Bijan Robinson. Also, you talked about Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff. That's why they're that high. If I look at them, this is another thing. I'm looking at them right now. Jesus, Colt.
Snake got loose.
Yeah. I'm looking at them against like the Broncos and the beloved Red Hogs. And I'm like, are they really? Oh, here it comes. Oh, audio poison. Looking at them against the Broncos and the Red Hogs. And I'm like, are they for real? I just saying it out loud. I think the Titans could beat those teams straight up.
Yeah.
If it was today.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Red Hogs quietly finished with like one of the best defenses in football, which they should have been that way all season long.
Yes, they should.
But it was quiet because they very slowly got there. And then the Broncos, it sounds like we're all banking on that Sean Payton effect pretty heavily.
Yeah.
But it's tough because I look at it and I'm like, Titans can beat these teams straight up. It's Mike fucking Vrabel. It's Derrick Henry.
Hard as nails, buddy.
It's hard as nails. But that, I don't know, man. I don't think this offense has been the same without A.J. Brown.
It hasn't been the same without A.J. Brown. It hasn't been the same since Arthur Smith left for Atlanta.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I have your beloved Pittsburgh Feelers at 21.
I'm not too far behind you, but yeah.
I still don't know how they're going to protect anybody. I love George Pickens so much. Kenny Pickett is, I think, fine. He's going to be fine. There will need to be a longer term answer sooner rather than later. I'm afraid, AJ.
I don't know who you're talking about being afraid. I am resigned that Kenny Pickett is not the answer. I'm less afraid of them being able to protect him than him being able to be a good quarterback. I think that with the additions they've made of the former Eagles offensive guard coupled with Daniels from last year and then Broderick Jones from this year,
they're going to be better.
I think they're going to be much better.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a low bar. So much better is
still not great.
It's still okay. It's okay. Sort
Yeah.
of at best. It's Kenny Pickett. That's my concern. Everything else, I mean, you could throw some shade at the interior defensive line and the, right up the center of that defense, with the exception of Cam Hayward, soft. But it's interesting to see what Keanu Benton, it looks like by a lot of accounts, like he's going to start at nose tackle for them, the Wisconsin kid, which is always a good thing to have a Wisconsin kid. Anyway,
the inside.
The middle linebackers and the interior defensive line, soft. TJ Watt, we can stay healthy.
If not,
does any of it matter if Kenny Pickett sucks ass?
Yeah, can you win a lot of football games with Kenny Pickett scoring 17 points a game?
You cannot. You cannot.
So we'll see about that.
It looks like a lot of folks have the Steelers higher than what you and I will, but I need to see it.
Yeah, I do too. AJ at 21, you have
the Titans. We did.
We did do that.
We skated on that.
I believe that's everything for this episode, right, boys?
Oh,
That's
jeepers. Is that it?
32 through
That's
21.
it.
That's it.
33, they're 32 to 21. We're through it.
Irma Gerd. So now it's time for the pronunciation game. These are things our old roommate, of varying degrees, Evan Carmison. These are words he can't say, names he can't say. We've extrapolated. He's never said these names. I just don't imagine that he would be able to pronounce them correctly based on his other struggles with football player names. This is Evan Carmison, the star of Jewish matchmaking on Netflix. The season finale go to about the 10 minute time, 10 minute point. Is that right, gentlemen? About 10
9 or
minutes.
10 minutes. Yeah, it's
9 or
episode
10
8,
minutes.
correct?
Yeah, it's the last episode. Obviously, he would be in the season finale because you'll see. Well, you'll see.
Yeah.
But see him there and hear him now of things he can't say, because this is the Detroit Lions edition, the roster of 5/21/23. This is
He
an
would do
offensive
awesome job
lineman.
with these.
Ryan, this is for you. Yeah, he would murder these. The offensive lineman came recently from the Philadelphia Eagles,
Originally out of
a few
Texas
years ago. Texas Christian University. What's his name?
Those mighty Horn Frogs. They had Hala Puli Vaati Vaitai.
Here we
That
go.
sounds beautiful.
Hala Puli Vati. Vaitai.
Oh,
So it's
come on.
not. It is not a Vaati. He, you know what, Colt? You can say come on, but I don't think he'd be super thrilled of us.
Yeah,
doing
I get
PPs
it.
on his
Man, that's
PB
really
dances on his
close,
name.
though.
It is super
Yeah.
close,
Great
and
job, Ryan.
that's how I had pronounced it forever, exactly that way.
Yeah, lipped out a birdie putt on that one. Tapped in for a par.
Yeah.
Yep.
Offensive lineman from either the University of Buffalo or Buffalo University. What is his name?
Is that Coyote Awasika?
Here we go. Kayade
Awashika.
Pika.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a missed par putt on that one. I tapped that one.
That's
a bogey.
That's a bogey. So this is a former Alabama offensive lineman. Also, Vaitai, I don't know if he was an Eagle. I think I'm thinking of Isaac Semoalu. I'm so sorry, Halapulavati. But now we're on to bigger and not necessarily better, but certainly bigger boys. See, I went all offensive linemen here.
Yeah,
this is a real beefsteak that we're chomping into right now.
Mm.
Offensive lineman, Alabama, now plays for the Detroit Lions. What's his name?
I believe his name is Ross Pierschbacher.
Ryan, it is Ross Pierschbacher.
Long A.
Pierschbacher. Still,
Man, that's a tough one.
You did a great job.
Yeah, it is.
And for that,
really close.
Your reward is this juicy morsel.
Yep. John Christian Kaimi, Noeo Lau Pua Fairbairn. Yep.
That's really good. Congratulations tonight's winning the McCulloch Award. It's the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Our buddy boss Bobby Lamarco told us we need to really start pushing this, so we're going to. Last week's winner was the British and Irish Eagles pod boys. Shout out to Phil and Mick and Liam. We're sorry we missed you. But so about the channel, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, our videos are worth more than the national debt. This is the description of the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel, which is a good joke because it would imply that the 614 videos currently posted as of 7/25/13 at 9:43 p.m. Eastern time are worth more than $3 trillion. You can be the judge. You can find videos of us there, and you can find good videos too. Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Ryan, take us home.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Shall We Football Podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast. Watch us on the Fantasy Football platform by Razzball. I just really wasn't reading that at all.
Yeah, you weren't. Can you? Do you mind?
We'll go back through that. Please subscribe to our responsibly sourced program on any podcast platform and Fantasy Football by Razzball, where a humble podcast can now be also found on any platform. Also, now subscribe to the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel for video versions of our fine program. They are back. Follow them on Twitter as well at Razzball. That is at Razzball, Razzball. Colt's also writing fantasy articles, so check those out as well. Give him lots of clicks. That's football.razzball.com. Follow us on Twitter at SWF_podcast. That's at SWF_podcast. I got nothing for Texas this week, boys, but they're back.
They are back.